Welcome back to the Black Health Lit podcast. This is a space where we can be black, proud, and healthy. Today's episode is focused on nurturing resilience, inner child healing. As a reminder, the Black Health Lit podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute providing medical advice. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode. Also, while you're here, check out the episode description to learn more about this topic and shop the Black, Proud, Healthy merch. All right, welcome back to the Black Health Lit podcast. Today I am talking with Victoria Finch, and we are talking about clinical hypnotherapy as well as inner child healing. But before we get into the subject and start educating people, can you tell my audience a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so pleased and honored to be here. Yeah, I'm Victoria Finch. They call me the heart healer. And I get that moniker from an incident, some things that happened in my life, feeling unworthy and not feeling good enough. And I'm sure we'll talk about those things as the episode goes on. I am certified as a master clinical hypnotherapist. I'm certified as a master practitioner of emotional freedom techniques, cognitive behavior therapy, life coach. So I have all kinds of different modalities and ways that I can help our community.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. So that's a great segue into my first question for you, which is I know on your website, I know on your platform and your branding, you call yourself the heart healer and you're a master clinical hypnotherapist. So a two-part question here. First, what do you mean when you say you're the heart healer?
Yeah. So by the heart healer, that just means that I take people to those dark places and spaces
Ooh.
in their world, in their life. They feel unworthy. Maybe you feel stuck. Maybe you feel that you're not enough and I'm never going to start that business or I can't have great relationships. Typically, when that happens, it becomes it's a heart issue. And a lot of times it's because there are things that we don't want to face about ourselves, or maybe we experience childhood trauma. And so, as a heart healer, I take you through those dark spaces. I provide a safe place for
Okay.
us to find the healing. And
Okay.
regarding the hypnotherapist, what could you repeat that question?
Yeah. So what exactly is a master clinical hypnotherapist? Did I say that all right?
Yes, you did. So the
Okay.
difference between a hypnotherapist and a master hypnotherapist or a clinical hypnotherapist, whether you reach the master level or not, is simply the fact that we are able and well trained in clinical hypnotherapy, which would be regression work, working with you on that childhood trauma, addictions, anything that can be kind of more in a clinical
Okay.
session versus those you see on television. Or
Yeah.
they say, I'm like a duck. No, that's
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what a lot of people think of when they hear hypnotherapy is I'm going to ring a bell and you'll start barking like a dog. But like you said, that's not what this is. This is different. This is more of a clinical intervention when somebody is suffering from either a mental health challenge, addiction, things that are more in that space.
exactly.
Okay. So that's a good clarification because back in the day, like Sally Jesse Raphael and all the all the talk shows gave a little unrealistic and very narrow view of what hypnotherapy was.
Well, yeah, and it with pain control, there's so many areas that hypnotherapy can help.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to work for a neuro something. I can't remember the second half of his title, but he used to do hypnotherapy to help people quit smoking.
Yes. Weight loss,
Yeah.
smoking cessation, those are things that a clinical hypnotherapist is trained to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So I worked for him for a little while when I was first starting off. So yeah, okay. So good examples of clinical hypnotherapy. And then, you talked a little bit at the beginning about healing the heart. But before we get back to the heart, I hear a lot of people and it's trending healing that inner child or inner child healing is something that's definitely trending. And I think that is a big buzzword, but I don't know that we really understand what that means. Can you break that down for
Yes.
us?
Yes. If you find yourself being triggered. Maybe you overreact and you have no reason. Like what they said really wasn't that bad. I don't know why I just went off. Why did I react that way? If you
Yeah.
find yourself mistrusting, if you
Mm.
find yourself in relationships where you give, but you don't receive, and you're constantly feeling alone, even though you're with someone, or maybe you have a situation to where you have unresolved anger and you don't know where this anger is coming from.
Mhm.
Typically, when we do inner child work, we're going to go between the ages of birth and age 7. The first 180
Wow.
months of life, that is where we are the most impressionable. That is where we are in something called the alpha brain pattern. And when we're in alpha, that's why kids are sponges. They're
They
sponges.
really
So,
are.
so right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up, you're in alpha. So right now, you and I are having a conversation. This conversation is what's called the beta brainwave
Okay.
pattern. And there's high. If I say, oh, there's going to be a test, like right now, you'll go into what's called high beta because all of a sudden now your senses of like, you're like, oh my God, right? You're like
Yeah.
wide awake, you're alert, you're ready to fight, flight, or whatever you have to do to survive. And so we go into beta. And then as we go down in the brain, which means it slows down. So beta is about 21 cycles per second. And as we go down into
Okay.
alpha, our brain patterns start to slow down, which is why when it's slowed down, we're able to learn because we're not worried about
Mm.
everything else. We're not overthinking a gazillion different things. And from there, we go into theta. Now, theta is typically where hypnosis and trance, we use theta a lot. And then
Okay.
from theta, you go into delta, and delta is sleep. That's restorative. That's when we're sleeping. That's when the REM cycle will come in. And it's all about helping people relax and calm to such a space to where they're able to open up their subconscious mind.
Okay. Good to know. That is an excellent breakdown. I knew that there was something about when you first wake up, or more so for me, right before bed. And
Mhm.
and so if somebody is in alpha right before bed, are they closer to being like a sponge, like a child?
Yes, closer to
Okay.
that learning, what we call the learning stage. And so what happens is as we start to wake, we're in delta and we go to theta and to alpha and then the beta. What happens in the morning is we start increasing our serotonin levels.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's making us more and more awake. In the evenings, as we start to settle down, we start creating more serotonin.
Mm,
So what ends up happening is that many of us, we live in stress. Cortisol
yes.
levels are very high. We're constantly reacting to our environment.
Yes.
And when we can slow that down and let melatonin do what it's supposed to do, it'll start to relax you, Sarah. So we say Mel puts you to sleep and Sarah wakes you up.
Oh, okay, that is a good way to look at it. Okay. All right. And so you touched on it already a little bit, like when somebody can know that they need inner child healing. So overreacting, you may have stubbed your toe, but it felt like it was a gunshot wound victim, like
Mm-hmm.
heightened
Yes.
sensitivity. What are some of the other ways that somebody can look at themselves and say, you know what? I need to heal my inner child. I really got to take care of this.
When you look at your life, look around who's in your life. Do you find yourself around people who are toxic, people who do not uplift you, but are always putting you down? That's an indication that you just don't think you deserve better.
Okay.
Could be
Okay.
that with the overreaction, it could also be that you just have this sense of being unsettled in your life and you feel like you're always on edge
Yeah.
because you just can't settle. You don't trust people because
Yeah.
your trust has been violated and you want to have these beautiful loving relationships and you fall in love with the expectation and not the person,
Yep.
and you fall in love with that because you so want to be validated. Many people who need inner child healing are very high achievers extremely high achievers because they're looking for that external validation.
Mm, okay. I can see that. And like, it's never enough, or being, like you said, an extreme high achiever, or maybe even a perfectionist sometimes
Perfectionist,
can
yes.
be a symptom of needing inner child healing. And that can be rooted in so many things, so many adverse childhood experiences, as
Hmm.
they've now coined the phrase. But okay, so those are some great examples. So what are some of these specifics, because this is Black Health Lit, so what are some of the specific experiences of Black people that would lead them to need this type of support? And this is I want to say for my audience, this is a generalization. This is not every
Right.
single Black person, but like, what are some of the top three things that we experience as Black people that might make us need this level of support?
Yeah. Well, obviously, childhood trauma. Perhaps a sense of
Yeah.
abandonment. You hold on to people so tightly in your life because you think you're going to be left, because
Yeah.
maybe your father left and didn't come back, maybe your
Yeah.
mother left and didn't come back. So you have this keen sense of abandonment. You
Mm-hmm.
have this keen sense of independence. There's nothing wrong with independence, but independence to the point to where I have to do it on my own because I can't depend on anybody else to be there for me.
Yeah.
And you also hear, and this is a thing that we struggle with, because in our community, when we need help from the neck up, oh, there's something wrong with you. You don't need that. Don't worry
Yep.
about that.
The
There ain't nothing
stigma.
wrong with you. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
you're just, you may be called names, horrible names. You're weak. Man up.
Yeah.
Woman up,
Yep. Put
whatever.
your big girl panties
Get
on.
your
Yep.
big girl panties on, right? And so these are things that doesn't give acknowledgement to the pain or the self.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot in our community.
We
A
do.
lot of anger. And now this is not for everyone. This isn't everyone
Oh
in the
yeah.
community. This is not the community as a whole, but it's that anger that's there
Yeah. And a
that
lot of
the
that,
children.
I've been, I try to read at least once a week and just stay up to date on the research, because things are constantly changing when it comes to health and health education and information. One day this medication is great for you, the next is causing
Mhm.
oily discharge and killing you. One day this works, the next day it doesn't. So but one of the things that I read recently, and it's not new information, is just the way that Black women specifically express depression and anxiety is like that angry Black woman. And is she's not really angry a lot of times. She's either depressed or anxious. So when you mention anger, it takes me back to that research that I read of, well, there's maybe some anxiety, some depression, some inner child healing that needs to happen. And she
Yeah.
really not angry. She's hurt.
She's hurt.
She's
Exactly.
hurt.
She's hurt. She's hurt.
Yeah.
She's abandoned. She's trying to survive. That fight or flight, the amygdala, the reptilian part of our brain is on high alert all the time.
Yeah.
You're a single mother. You got kids to feed. You're working two jobs.
Yep.
There's so many dynamics, and you just
Yep.
don't know where to turn or how to turn. And that turns into depression and anger. That's
Yeah.
how it manifests itself very often.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So at the very beginning of our conversation, you talked about the heart.
Yes.
And you're not talking about in a physical sense, right? You're not talking
Correct.
about like the physiology of the heart, but just can you expound on that and talk a little bit more about like how does our, so we talked about the head, the neck up, but like how does our heart from an emotional level fit into inner child healing or clinical hypnotherapy? Like where, how does that connect?
Well, you had mentioned that she's hurt.
Yeah.
Where are we hurt from? It's a heart. Where's
It's
that
a
anger
heart
coming
thing.
from? It's from the heart.
Yep.
Where does the love and the gratitude come from? It's from the heart. It's all from the heart. And when we can get our mind and our heart in coherence, that's when we can find peace. Because our heart will tell us, I'm pretty awesome. I am enough. I'm wonderful. I'm all these great things. And then we get in our head and say, girl, you know, you should be over there. You
Yeah.
get in the head and now you're overthinking everything you've done.
Yeah.
But you know in your heart, somewhere deep down, that you're worth more, that you are enough, that you don't need to be in these relationships that you find yourself in constantly. That's the heart speaking, but it's the head that, well, I don't want to be alone. What am I going to do with, how am I going to get around financially? See, the head
Yeah.
starts, the itty bitty committee starts talking to you.
Yeah.
And so when you can get those two together and
Yeah.
let the heart lead, that's when the magic happens. That
Ooh.
is when you can find that healing. When
Yeah.
you can go to that inner child and you can set that inner child free because she's been trapped or he's been trapped there, wanting to be free. That child knows that they're a beautiful soul.
Mhm.
It's just that everything that's happened along the way has hidden her back. And so, or
Mhm.
him, and now it's about letting them come out and be
Yeah.
free.
Yeah. I like that. That's a great book title right there. The heart and the mind, connect those two, make sure they're aligned, find peace. And I know it may for some people sound like philosophical or something like that, but there's a lot of truth in that. It's been scientifically proven, you know, mindfulness and therapy and hypnotherapy and different things, getting those two things in alignment and just the impact of negative self-talk and so many people, I think even Michelle Obama may have said it, who we mostly love, most of us love, lead with your heart, you know, let your heart lead you through life. And so that's
Yeah.
beautiful, and I am wholeheartedly in agreement with you on that.
Gratitude is the highest state of our mind, that space of
Mm.
gratitude. And that's all from the heart. Scientists have shown that when you live in a space of gratitude, it radiates, the electromagnetic field radiates 3 meters. That's about 9, 10 feet from your body. It can be
Wow.
seen when you're in that space of love. That's why, if you think about it, when you're walking and you just have a good day, you're feeling good, people
Yeah.
start talking to you.
Yeah, they do.
They're like, "Oh, your hair's nice. Oh,"
Yep.
and they start talking. It's because you're radiating that out. So what if we could get into a state and be in a state of being where we're always radiating that?
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true because I have definitely been running errands at Target or wherever I'm going that day, looking a mess, not my best. And it's like, but my mood is so good. The sun is shining. And
Mhm.
it's like, wow, why are people talking to me? And that must be what it is. But if I'm like in a bad mood, it's like I could be dressed to the nines, you know what I mean? And it's like, don't
Mhm.
nobody want to talk to you when you're in a bad mood.
Mhm. People can feel it.
They really
You know?
can. They really
And
can.
that's why journaling is so important. Journaling in the morning when you're in that alpha state, or the evening when you're in alpha, when you're journeying gratitude, find 3 things to be gratitude and about, gracious about. And journaling is the best, right? Because we know now we've got that connection going. Even if you say it, it will
Yeah.
start to infuse within you.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I know you've had a personal journey, Victoria, and you've gone from being hopeless and, you know, living in hopelessness to healing. Do you mind
Yeah.
sharing with my audience a little bit about your personal journey?
Yeah, sure. When I was about 2 years old, we lived in a very small house. We had 3 bedrooms, but the house was small. And I was the youngest of six. So it was my 2 sisters who were the oldest, and then I had 3 brothers. And I didn't have a place. I didn't have a crib. I didn't have any place of my own or anything of my own because I just didn't, being the
Yeah.
youngest. And when I would go to whoever would take me, and one particular morning, I was in my parents' room, which is where I was most of the time, and they asked me to leave the room. I was about 2 years old. I'm in diapers. I'm a toddler, and I can remember this as I'm telling the story. I can see
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right? And I go to my sister's room. They tell me to get out. I go to my brother's rooms. They tell me to get out. Here
Yeah.
I am, just this little baby. Now I'm just unwanted. I'm
Yeah.
unloved. Nobody wants me. And I'm sitting on the side of my parents' door with my little knees drawn up to my head and being abandoned. That
Yeah.
was my first feelings of abandonment in my life.
Mhm.
That little girl sat by her parents' doors for over 50 years.
Wow.
How does she sit by her parents' door? Relationships with men that was never going to commit
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I wasn't worth it. Who would want me anyway? You don't want me around.
Yeah.
And as I also was molested as a child. So then I ran into, well, if I do this for you, then
Yeah.
then you're going to like me,
Yeah.
right? And now that's when the promiscuity came.
Mhm.
Always being in and out of depression, go to the doctor, take this pill, take that pill. And I lived that way for so many years.
Yeah.
And then I saw on the internet, when you're ready, God steps in. When a
He
man
does.
is able and ready, then the God step in. And I was ready because I found myself sitting on the side of the bed with the bottle of pills in my hand, not caring if I woke up the next morning. Antibiotics, I
Wow.
took all the time, didn't matter, couldn't even
Yeah.
enjoy the laughter of my children. And
Wow.
as I got ready to put those pills in my mouth, I heard that the voice that I call the voice of God. You can call it divine. I don't care what you call it. To me, it's God. And that
Mhm.
voice was just like right beside me that said, I made you on purpose for a purpose, and this is not it. I got up, I threw those pills away, and I discovered this hypnotherapist and she was giving a free session. So I went ahead,
Oh.
I didn't even think anything of it. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
let's see what this is about. And she was able to do the regression work, take me back to that little girl that was sitting there. And so one of the techniques that I use when I need to is it's called the chair technique, where I will have you close your eyes and take a deep breath. And then I will ask you to talk to the little 7-year-old girl. What would you tell her? What would you say to
Ooh.
her sitting there by herself, not thinking anyone loves her, cares about her? And
Yeah.
then from there, you have that conversation with the 15-year-old or 16-year-old that has the broken heart, that's right back sitting beside that door,
Yeah.
not being loved again. Or it may not be a door for you. And then you talk to that 21-year-old, the young woman that has all her hopes in front of her, but still finds herself in situations that she knows she has no business being in.
Right.
And you go back and you have this conversation with her. And this allows you to free them, to free that child. And
Yeah.
so that's what I did. And I thought, wow, I've got a heart issue. If I feel this way, and I was a pretty high achiever, how many
Yeah.
others feel this way? And so
Yeah.
that's when I got healing and went from that hopelessness to healing. And that's why I became the heart healer, because I knew that was my purpose. That was my commission, to heal
Mhm.
the heart, to heal the world one heart at a time.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think it's such a blessing when people are fortunate enough to find their purpose, especially
Yeah,
if it's a purpose in service that impacts the world, that impacts people, even if it's just one person. I think
yeah,
that is such a blessing and something to wake up for every single day.
yeah. It's that ripple. You
Yep.
touch one, you touch the many,
Yeah.
you touch the
Yes.
whole. You don't know.
Absolutely.
I've even had
Absolutely.
people ask me that, Victoria, I don't know what I was doing. And they said, how does it feel to you that you help all these people? And sometimes you don't even know. I said, it doesn't matter. Because
Mhm.
this isn't for me.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't ever need to hear. But every once in a while I get that call or I get that email. Victoria, you may not even remember me,
Mm.
but this is what you did for me. I heard
Yeah.
your words. So
Yeah.
I say, keep doing the good work.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your experience. I think it's really helpful when people get to hear from someone else, hey, I've been there, or hey, I'm still there, but I
Yeah.
pulled through, or I am pulling through, or you can pull through too. So thank you so much for sharing,
Yeah.
your testimony and your experience.
Thank you so much for allowing
Yeah,
me to speak in
of
this
course.
space.
So now let's get into some light stuff. because I almost shed a tear right there. Let's get into some rapid fire questions, Victoria. So the first one is, what does wellness mean to you?
Wellness. Oh, yes. Wellness to me means the ability to get up and run with that grandbaby coming. And it's mental. Wellness to me is it's spiritual, it's physical, it's mental, it's the whole shebang, as they say.
Yeah.
That's what wellness is to me. It's
Yep.
like letting go, and like that old Victoria, she's gone, she's dead. Letting it go so I can become who I was meant to be. That's
Yeah,
wellness.
absolutely. Now, why is Black health literacy important?
Oh, our babies need it. Our mothers need it. You know, no one comes to this world except by a woman. And
That's
Black
true.
literacy, we have got to let our people know that it's okay to get that help from that neck up, just like you would for that broken toe.
Yes,
It's so
absolutely.
important. We have to reach out. We have to reach out to
We do.
all ages.
We do. And
Disperse some of that anger.
yes, yes, yes. And being educated about what's out there, it makes a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah. And then last but not least, Victoria, how can people find you and learn more about the heart healer and connect with you?
Yes, I'm not too hard to find. You see Just Ask Victoria behind me. So you can go to justaskvictoria.com. You can find me on Instagram at Just Ask Victoria with the underscore. You can find me on Facebook. Just if you hit Just Ask Victoria, you're going to find me. Even at info at justaskvictoria.com. I'm easy to find.
All
Just
right.
ask me.
Perfect. Thank you. And I will definitely put your contact information and bio in the show description when this goes out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere that it will go. And I really appreciate you being here today, sharing your journey, providing some insight. You're the first clinical hypnotherapist that I've had on the show. So thank you for that. And I just really appreciate you.
Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for spreading the word. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being you.
Absolutely.